Now, Proverbs 24 verse 6. The Bible said, for by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in the multitude of counselors there is safety. There is only safety in the multitude of counselors. When you go to God and pray, after you have prayed for a long period of time, and you are telling God to speak to you and to tell you something, because there is something you are looking for from God. God may be silent in his presence, because the presence that God carries is not conducive for you to be able to discern and decipher the word or the voice of God in that presence. Because when God comes to a man, he comes with a dimensions of presence that if that man don't understand that presence, he will not hear the voice of God in that presence. When God comes, his presence alone is a voice. God don't have to open his mouth to speak. The presence of God in an environment is a voice. So you can pray to God for a lot of things, and the Lord will appear to you with only a presence. And you are still expecting and waiting for God to speak. But the spoken word is the presence. So you are waiting for God to still speak further. Meanwhile, he has already spoken. You can come to church and you are telling God, show me if this church is where I should stay. Stop that behavior. Stop expecting a dream or an audible voice. The presence alone in that church is a voice that have spoken to you. Because you came to that church and you have felt something you have never felt in life. Since you started attending church, you have never felt that. And yet you are telling God, if this is your presence, talk to me. What speech are you looking for? If my presence is not enough, what will my voice do? So the presence of God on itself is a voice. The Bible says God used to come to Adam and Eve in the cool of the day. The Bible said, and the voice of God was walking. How do voices walk? The voice was the presence. So the presence of God was walking. So which means that voice is a presence. The Bible says, and the voice of God was what? Walking. We know that voices are not mobile. As I am talking, I'm talking from a direction. You know that the voice, even if you're a blind man and you don't have eyes, you can know that I'm talking from in front of you, because the echo comes from the front, to which means you know where you are hearing from. But when the voice begins to walk, you should know that there's a man carrying the voice. Because how do voices walk? As I am talking, and if this microphone wasn't there, and I am talking, and you are a blind man, and you see me walk past you at the back, you will know that I have bypassed you and I'm not speaking from your back. So you will discern that I am at the back, because the voice is carried by a man, and that man is walking. So if the voice of God was walking, you need to understand that it was not just the voice that was doing the walking, but the presence of God. So if God used to come to them every day, you should understand that it was not every day God was speaking, but they were still interacting, because there is a realms you can tap into in God that God don't have to speak before you understand him. Those who are following my prophetic series on Facebook, I said the mood of God is a voice, and I pray that I can't wait for us to get to the mood of God and then the sound of God, because these are teachings I'm eager to teach, because they are teachings that it will blow the mind of people. Some of you, all of a sudden, you will discover that you are a prophet, just that you were not under a prophet who can help you discover your gifting. Because some of you have heard sounds, the sound of bells, you have heard the sound of trumpets, you have heard the sound of ambulance. People have mentioned your name and you turn and there was no one. And because in your village they taught you that when you hear your name, it's a witch, rebuke that witch. You say afufufulofo. Yeah, afufufulofo, and you are walking. You don't care who mentions your name. Do you think at this level of your spirituality, a witch will agree and call your name? That after you have fasted and prayed all this while, you have prayed and prayed and prayed, after 5 hours of prayer you are out and you hear your name and you said, I rebuke you. Every devil, I silence you. It's not a devil. If someone was quick to silence voices like that, he wouldn't have become a prophet that mentor many prophets in the Bible. God can come to you at your back and say, Rauf, and you turn and there's no one. There is a way we respond to voice of God in the realms of God. You don't respond by saying yes. Yes is not a response. In the realms of God, yes is not a response. What do you mean by yes? In the realms of God, we respond by a different method. We respond using a different technology. Not the word yes. Y-E-S. That's not how we respond in God's realms. Say yes, sir. And you said, I responded. He didn't talk again. How did you respond? Because there's even a way we respond to God's voice. There's a way we respond to God's call. We'll get there. But my problem here is, for by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war. Which means you make war by a wise counsel. And he said, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. In the multitude of counselors, there is what? Safety. The first channel of communication in life, in the life of every believer or a prophet, no matter how big you are in the prophetic realms, there's a first channel of communication. That first channel of communication, whenever you are done praying, is that God bring men. If you tell God to speak to you, after you are done telling God, speak to me, and God is going to speak to you. Do you know the first channel God will use to speak to you? Amen. You have prayed and meditated, and you may not hear an audible voice, but right after you step out of the prayer room and you left the presence of God, the next voice will be a man that will be coming your way. So which means you can die in God's presence without hearing him, and when you step out of his presence, you will hear him. Which means you can be standing at the presence of God, waiting for God to speak, and you will hear nothing. Only when you step out of that man's presence, he now starts speaking to you. What is happening? I was there. Why didn't you speak? You can come to church. God will not speak. When you go home, God will use that witch and speak to you. God can use anything and speak, including fetish priests. If God can use Balaam to prophesy, then God can use anybody, because Balaam was a prophet who was hired. If they can hire a prophet, I can't trust that prophet. I don't think he's from God. If they can hire you to prophesy against a group of people, your anointing should be suspect. We should investigate your anointing. So I think Bible is not so clear whether he was from God or he was from the devil. The Bible is not so clear. But I believe that if Balaam was not from God, from the devil, he is not also from God. Because how come they are able to hire you to prophesy against the people of Israel? They convince you to do that. Now, what I want you to know is that there are men that serve as a voice of God in your life. That after prayer and after investigating the voice of God, the next man you will meet, or the next person will meet, is that man. That the man will meet you and begin to tell you things. God is speaking through a man that don't even know that he has been sponsored by God to talk to you. So there is the first channel of communication, and that channel is a man. That if you don't know how to use men to access God's voice, there is a level, or there is a part of you that will die, because it has been starved from accessing the voice of God through other men. A man is a powerful tool. And it's not just what they say. After prayer, what men do is a voice. After prayer, what men do, the actions of men and women in your life, is a voice after prayer. Whenever they begin to act in a way, after you have told God, show me who this man is, their action and reaction becomes a voice from God. You can be dating a lady and you tell God, I want you to really show me who this lady is. Open my eyes. Show me if she's my wife. Now, you may be expecting and waiting for an audible voice of God. And then God will deny you that audible voice and use that same lady to speak to you. The one you are praying for information about, God will use that same person and speak to you. So you must have the ability to walk out of the presence of God and know this lady, God is the one using her to speak to me. Because immediately after the prayer, you are talking with the lady and something happened. She raised her hand and slapped you. The action of that lady has confirmed. God has just confirmed. He has just spoken to you. So if you are still going to a prophet and say, prophet, I want confirmation. Meanwhile, the lady have already spoken to you. God have used the lady to speak to you. Yet, you are still looking for a confirmation. If the lady is actually from God, there's something wrong with you. I met a lady. She told me, is this man my husband? I mentioned 3 names. I said, who is this? My boyfriend cheated on me with her. Who is this? Ah, prophet. Ah! He cheated on me with her too. I mentioned another name again. Oh! Cheated on me. I said, do you still want me to tell you whether the guy is from God or he's not from God? And she was quiet. Go ahead. Tell me, do you want me? I said, yes. I said, he's from God. Go and marry. Go ahead. Go and marry. I'll be glad to come to your wedding. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. He was going to get up. Sit down. You don't have brains. I said, do you really think I'm confirming it? You are not well. Do you really think I will say different thing when God is saying different? When he cheated on you, did you catch him? That yes, all the 3, I caught him. And what did he say? He said that was just the first time I saw them. It has not been happening. I said, did you believe that? He said, Prof, I'm not a prophet. You want me to tell you that it is not the will of God, so that you will step out of that relationship using my name, that a prophet told you it is not from God. I'm a smart kid. I'm aware a small body. My brains are mature. God has spoken to you 3 times and you are still looking for him to talk. What is your problem? God has spoken to you 3 good times. Number 1, you caught him cheating. Number 2, you caught him cheating. Number 3, you caught him cheating. Do you still want God to speak? Why are you so insensitive to the voice of God? These are same people that are crying and waiting to hear the audible voice of God. When God has spoken, using more than audible. How many of you discover that there are many people, if you cannot understand God using signs, you can't understand him using an audible voice? Those of you who have attended school, you discover that it is easy to bring a computer to the class and show us this is monitor, this is system unit, this is keypad, this is what. It's better you bring a computer, physical computer. It helps more than drawing and then teaching with theory. So do you know that the audible voice is a theory, and then what is happening is practicals? If you cannot discern practicals, how then do you discern theory? So the first level or channel of communication is practicals. God speaks to his people using practical terms, practicals. A pastor will join your ministry and you say, Father, I want the ministry to grow. And all of a sudden, they begin to leave one by one. They begin to leave one by one. And you go back and say, what is happening? After all the fasting and prayer. And the Lord said, I'm answering your prayer. If I come to you and said, before the ministry will grow, fire so and so, you will not do it. So let me do it. You will not be able to do it. But I'm ready. So that is practical. God is speaking to you using practicals. If you are not discerning, that's why when people say, Daddy, yes. One of the pastors came to my office and said, this year about 3 people left, this person left, this person left. I said, so this year this so and so left. How many people came in? Why not worried about it? Daddy, we must have the ability to keep everybody. Even Jesus, when you say he couldn't keep everybody, can't do more than Jesus. No, some people are born to live. Amen. Hear me well. What you need to understand is that whatever that you don't understand in practical form, it will be hard for you to understand it in theory. That is why scientists use more practice than theory. Even at the nursing college, when we were at the nursing college, whatever we do in theory, we practice it before we go to the ward. We will practice it in front of our teachers because they believe that practice makes man perfect. God will not tell you that they will reject you. Instead of God to appear and say, Japta, you shall be rejected in one environment, and another environment I will make you an army commander. He makes it practical, because if he tells you that, you may not be able to discern that voice. It may be too heavy for you. You may be there worried about rejection. You are careful that you don't do anything so that man will reject you. There is a particular group of people you don't want them to reject you. So you are doing all that you can to be accepted by those group of people. So the Lord will not tell you. He will use you as practicals. You just sleep and wake up and they say, we don't want you in this land any longer. You say, what is happening? Why? You are praying, and that is when God is quiet, because his voice is what is happening in your life. So sometimes you may say God is quiet, meanwhile he has spoken already, because what is happening in your life is the voice of God. The delay could be a voice. When you say, hey, God has never kept quiet. The God I know speak 24/7 in your life. It's not like he's speaking in the life of somebody and will come back to your life and said, I went to China, but I'm back. I was busy. No, he's speaking right now. Right now he's speaking. So God has never kept quiet in the life of a man. It's just that man has not discerned the voice of God in a part of him, that the voice is being spoken. Always. But every day, God speaks. Even how people are treating you is a voice. Your situation is a voice. You may be there crying and praying and crying and praying, and the Lord said, Abba, can't you discern my voice? What you are going through is my voice. It's my voice. I'm teaching you basics. That will help you, because there are men of God that are on top there showing you potters and channels. But I just discovered that if I don't come down to the beginning, in the beginning, God created. So we have to come back to the beginning. If not, there won't be a woman until there is a beginning. Woman will not come out of the rib of a man. We need to go back to the Genesis, the beginning of everything. When I started ministry, the rejection I faced in my former church, it pushed me to pray. It pushed me to love God. It pushed me to search for God, because I was called different names. A Sangoma, a sorcerer, a lot of things. Who? Is that also a prophet? A lot of things were said. And let me tell you something. Sometimes, even hate can be a voice. What people say, me, I don't want to fail because of 3 things. Number 1, I cannot disappoint purpose. Do you know that you can disappoint purpose? Purpose is a living being. Purpose is a man. And purpose can speak. Purpose can hear. Purpose can discern. Purpose can smell. And purpose know when you disappoint him. So you can disappoint purpose. Purpose, you say, shit, the guy has disappointed me. Because he was waiting for you at the top. He wanted you to wear you and do whatever he wants to do. So number 1, not to disappoint purpose. Number 2, not to disappoint God. And number 3, that my enemies may not laugh. So which means it's good to have enemies. Look, they are playing a vital role in your life. Don't take that for granted. You have been loved too much, and that love is spoiling you. Because some people, they have been pampered in the house too much. And because of that, the greatness in them didn't come out. When you see a last baby who is pampered too much, you know, they complain about it. My brother, what kind of life is that? Take it easy. What I want you to know is that I want you to know that men are voices. People around you are voices. Rejection is a voice. Situation is a voice. What you are going through can be a voice speaking, a practical voice. It is a practical voice. A practical voice. A practical voice. It's a practical voice. Understand? You are a CEO of a supermarket. You are the owner of that supermarket. And you pray to God. And you told God that there's no sales in my supermarket. I want you to show me what is wrong. Please help me. Sit down. And now, after that prayer, you came out of your prayer room, and you went to the supermarket. Maybe you say, okay, let me just go and see what is happening now. You got to the supermarket, and there is a long queue where you could have buy and walk out within 1 minute. You have bought it and you are queuing for 20 minutes to go to the desk for them to check it in before you go out. And you're a busy man. Will you go to a place like that? No. So immediately you get there and you see that long queue and people are puffing, angry that there is a queue they have to go through. And some are dropping the product they have picked and they are going back home without paying or without following the queue. You don't have to go to a prophet. The Lord have just spoken to you. After the prayer, the Lord have just shown you what is wrong and the reason why you are not making enough sales. You are losing customers because of this attitude. So what you're supposed to do is that you're supposed to get even 5 dexes that will be in charge of collecting and checking and like keying in those products and collecting the monies. Because if I have to queue for 30 minutes before I pay you, it's either I will not queue or I will never come back. The same way to this restaurant people. I was in Accra on Thursday evening. There is this coffee lounge. It's a Chinese restaurant. I went for food. I was seated alone. I got there 6:30 something in the evening. I wanted to break my fast, so I just needed something, some coffee or something. I sat down. No one came to me to ask me, what do you want? I got up and I walked to them. I sat outside. It was having inside and outside. So I sat outside. I walked to them. And then I told them that I want to place an order for food. And they said, go and sit down. We are coming. I said I was seated there. You never came. That's why I came. Take my order. Let me go and sit down. You don't have to come. He said, we are sorry, sir. Go and sit down. We are coming. I said, no problem. I went and sat down. They never came for the past 5 minutes. And finally, one lady came and said, sorry, sir, for the delay. There's pressure over there. I said, is that not what your boss wanted? Don't the owner of this place want pressure on you? He pays you for the pressure. He pays you. That's what he wants. Why do you keep people waiting? Oh, sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. I said, okay, I placed an order. That was around 6:50 something to 7. They finally brought the order around 8:30. More than 1 hour, 30 minutes. I was seated there. And when I went there, I didn't call anybody that I was there. I just went to have some 2 meetings and then I came back the next day, Friday. So I didn't call a lot of people. Like I would have just go somewhere. So Already, when I sat there, about 3 people came and greeted me. We know you, Prophet David. We follow you. Some people say, oh, I've ever been to your meeting at Africana. And blah, 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 a lot of people. So now walking around restaurant to restaurant is a lot of risk. So I just say, let me just sit here and take my risks. It's enough. Finally, the lady brought water and left again. So I made up my mind that I will never ever go there, no matter how hungry I am. That restaurant is out. It's out. They've lost the customer. How did they do it? A delay. So sometimes the owner or the manager of the restaurant just need to be there to see what is happening, so that it can inform or answer his prayers. For all you know, he's somewhere busy praying that God, show me how to grow my business. Meanwhile, he don't need the presence of God to solve the problem. He needs to be there in the business so that God can show him by practice that this is the problem of the environment.